Sense. Today, we are going to delve into an intriguing and often untold stories of history. I'm your host, Pushami, and today we have a very interesting special guest, Nivedita. So,
Guest and target.
so today we are exploring a topic that has had a profound and lasting implications on society. How colonial British rule ruined sex education for Indians. So, in today's episode, we'll explore the stark contrast between pre colonial and colonial influences on sex education in India. And we'll also look at how indigenous practices were suppressed. And mostly, we'll discuss about the introduction of ideals and the long term impacts on Indian society as well. So let's get into the podcast and discuss how these changes have left a legacy that continues to affect sex education and attitude towards sexuality in India. So, hello, Divi, how
Yeah,
are
it's
you?
a very interesting topic. Thank you. I'm so glad that we could actually talk about this very interesting topic because it's quite misunderstood, right? Where
Yes,
we think that the West is somehow more modern and forward thinkers than us, but the reality is very far from it. Way before the British invaded us and uh, imposed their morals and everything into us, we were quite modern thinkers. Not just modern, we were very open-minded as well. The sex
surprising.
education from back then to now, it's quite different, and for sure it's because of the British invasion and their influence, and now they say that they are quite modern. When you see shows like Sex Education Talk, teaching the same things that we had back to us, it's like, okay, it's coming a whole circle now.
Right. And then through those shows, we Indians are in fact learning about it because we are not aware of about the importance of sex education and the
Exactly.
rights and everything, whereas we have a very strong foundation in India. And so, sex education is something very important, is what I feel, and everybody needs to know about, should be aware of sex education. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Like, why
Yeah.
do you think
Yeah,
sex
see,
education?
sex education as a term is quite misunderstood. It's not about the sex, actually. It's
Yes.
about, it's a lot of things. It's about, for example, for kids, when you're talking about sex education, it's about good touch and bad touch. What's right and wrong? How do you deal with how do you protect your private parts? How do you protect yourself from, all of that also comes under sex education. And primarily sex is not, when you use the word sex, it's about intercourse, right? That's how we've always linked it
Associated it.
to it. But then, yeah, so it's actually, there's a lot more to it than the intercourse, and that's how we Indians used to look at sex in general. I think right now it's mixed, right? Not, we still want sex education in our schools. There are a lot of organizations trying to push that into our schooling system and into our syllabus. I was fortunate enough to have sex education classes for like 3 days when I was in ninth standard. Ideally, given the crime rate and the overexposure, sex education is supposed to be taught way earlier uh, for kids. I think I saw some reels where they were teaching it to kindergarten students. What is a good touch, what is a bad touch. You have to understand the difference. So it starts from a very early age. Sex education, the term is, it's an umbrella.
Yeah.
It starts from an early age, and starting from that, you have to understand what is the use of sex, how it can give you pleasure, and all of that comes under the same umbrella.
Right.
So it's a very important topic, and the most avoided topic as well.
Yes, yes,
I don't know who made it a taboo. Maybe it's also again part of this British agenda to make it a taboo topic so that they put us under the label of decent women do not talk about sex openly. But
yes.
it's a necessity, and I think it's good that we are talking about this today.
Right, right. I mean, you're absolutely right about how it's a vast umbrella and there are like many topics that's covered under it. I think it's very important to talk about sex education because it's not only about how to have sex or is it good to have sex or not, or it's not only about the family planning and all. It's way more to it. It's about understanding the reproductive health, and it's also
Right.
about maintaining the interpersonal relationships as well. I think
Yeah.
it's like, as you mentioned, it's such a quite misunderstood term. They just associate sex as, oh my God, this is something about sex and trauma. I think I had this belief where when the show, the sex education was launched, I thought, no, I'm way too young to watch something related to sex. So I think I probably should wait for a certain age to learn about sex and to understand what sex is all about. And so that isn't what sex education is. And I think even in the schools these days, they are not exactly talking about the intercourse or the right way and all. It's just all about okay, so this is the uterus and this is the penis and these are the reproductive
I
organs.
don't. When I was in school, they usually gave us those two diagrams, and that's it. That's all they were teaching us. They did not
Oh,
teach us about reproductive health
oh,
or
okay.
all the important things that a person should know. I mean,
Yeah,
anyways, eventually we're all gonna learn uh, all of these things, but from untrusted sources. So
yes,
it's better that we are taught in the right way and deal with it the right way, right? Instead of getting it from random sources. I think that many people get their knowledge of sex from porn,
yes, they
which
do
is
definitely.
highly unrealistic. This can also again cause a lot of problems when you're looking at porn. The kind of things that happen on screen are usually not something that you can see in reality, and there's always going to be that mismatch, and it's going to lead to disappointment. And again, porn does not teach you safe practices. Porn
Yes, it
does
does.
not teach you the right way to you know treat your partner. So
Yes,
all of that is supposed to be educated in the right way. Surprisingly, all of these were taught in our Indian culture, as part of our Indian culture, on the core of it, through so many ways.
yeah, there are different
In our
ways.
culture, like for example, you see Kama Sutra is one of the oldest books, and many people have thought that it's all about sex positions, all the different ways
Right.
a man and a woman can indulge in sex. But it's way more than that. It's a lot deeper than that. It's about
Yes,
how each individual can get pleasure by treating the other person right. So
yes,
what do you think? Have you heard about this book?
yes, definitely. I was very much interested about this book, Kama Sutra.
Curious.
And yeah, but before getting into talking about Kama Sutra, I would like to also add one more, this learning sex through porn. I think nowadays even kids are able to access porn, which is
Right.
something. I mean, that's not under our control. Let's say we are not, the kids are unattended and they are watching porn. And the thing is, they just watch a men and women having an intercourse. Whereas
Yeah.
so they think it's okay to have intercourse with their sister or with any other random person. So I've read cases where a brother was harassing or was forcing his own sister, to have sex with him. It's all because he was addicted to porn and he just watched porn and he thought it was okay to have sex with anyone. So that's something that's
Right.
pretty fun, I think, and that is I think looking at cases like this, it's parents also should understand the importance of sex education because you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
always be there behind running behind your kids. It's important for them,
Yeah.
for us as individuals to have an open conversation about sex education, of course, in the right way, so that they would understand what is it entirely about, or when are you supposed to, execute it, or probably that's how it should be. And
Mm-hmm.
as you said, coming back to Kama Sutra, it's a definitely an amazing book. I didn't read it entirely, but I did go through a couple of chapters, and as you said, it is about sex. See, sex is something that anyone can do, but what Kama Sutra focuses on is mainly about the pleasure and the art of making love. And definitely, there are sexual positions that's given, but I think very there's a detailed reasoning behind every sexual position, and how is it important in a certain way. And when it comes to deriving pleasure, it isn't about just this momentary satisfaction, but having sex, it's like the highest form of energy. So people used to consider uh yeah sexual energy as the highest form of energy, and it is equivalent to the divine power. uh, to be very honest, I've heard from another podcast, or probably I've read it somewhere, but this is what I'm aware of. And also, it isn't about, only uh, satisfying the women or satisfying the man. It's about having equal pleasure between both men
Right.
and women.
Equal
It's a part
pleasure
of,
is something
yeah,
we've all forgotten, I think.
yes,
Yeah, I don't know who changed it and why they had to change it. But
yes,
I've heard that so during the British invasion, right? It was I think around when Queen Victoria was there on the crown. This Victorian era was a completely different time for British as well. So it was the time when industrialization was coming into the society, and they wanted men to work, to go to factories or to go to the industries and work, and they wanted the women folk to stay at home and just take care of the kids. So they wanted to create this whole family system, and along with it came these morals that they just came up with. But I don't think this even existed with them. So they just came up with this whole moral system, and then when they came to India, they wanted to impose the same thing on us as well. So
yes,
they started calling all our practices as immoral, indecent. So women are not supposed to talk
sugar,
about sex. Women are not supposed to even talk about pleasure. Like it was not
yes,
even important to them. So women's role in society was only to bear children and take care of them. Nobody cared about what they want out of it, and whether they actually liked it or not. So it started from there,
yes,
and ever since then I don't know why we haven't recovered uh, from that whole system. I
yes,
think
yes.
now, maybe now, the past 40-50 years, we're trying to come back, but we are a long way to go when it comes to
Exactly.
female pleasure.
Yeah. Even if you look at our ancient structures like temples or the sculptures and all, there were many structures carved
Yeah,
uh, that describes sex and different
exactly.
methods, different positions as well. So the erotic art, and
Actually, quite erotic ones, right?
yes, yes, yes,
Some things that we haven't even seen in movies
yes,
or anywhere else. They're quite erotic and very descriptive scriptures that have been there thousands and thousands of years ago in our culture.
yes,
And
exactly.
it's not just sculptures, right? There are beautiful poetry, and uh, as part of our the epics and the stories that we tell, sex was always a part of it, and it was in our everyday life. We celebrated it.
Yes,
Say
we
there
did.
are some goddesses, like this fertility goddess.
Mm.
we celebrated that. There were some festivals to celebrate female energy. So all of that is, everything is linked, right? It's, sex is not just intercourse to have children. No, it's a lot more than that. Female energy is celebrated, and all of that was actually shamed by the British. Yeah, even our traditions and our celebrations were actually shunned by them, and we slowly stopped understanding why we did what we did. Even now, woman hits puberty, we celebrate them.
Yes, we celebrate.
We've lost the real reason behind doing it. Now it's all about the pomp and show, where great clothes call 100 people and celebrate, but we've actually lost the real reason behind uh, why we did those stuff.
Right.
It was an elaborate affair. It was uh, about celebrating a womanhood. It was, yeah, it was a lot more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also, we used to discuss sex very openly about marriage, about sexual health, and the practical practices, and all of these were also openly discussed by elder women in the society. Whereas now
Yeah.
it's, I think our generation probably find it very awkward to talk about sex with our mothers or with our
Yeah, I
parents in
mean,
general.
I've always been curious. Okay, so whenever a woman gets married, and so there's this first night thing, right? So
Yes,
a
yes.
woman is so once she's sent into it, I was always curious, how did she know what to do? Nobody actually talks about it. I mean,
Yes.
at least now, nobody at least talks about it. Not the mothers, not uh, we obviously we talk to our friends, and right now we have so many ways to get to know about it. So, what would have happened in case of our parents or the previous generation? Like, how did they actually figure these things out? Did their parents tell them? I was always curious, and then what hit me worse than that was like when I watched these shows like Bridgerton and
Yes, yes.
other Regency era drama, right? And in one of the episodes, bride I mean the protagonist, she gets married and she has no clue what to do. And
Exactly.
even when she asks her mother, her mother is like very hesitant to talk about
Talk
it
about it.
openly.
Yes.
Yeah, so they don't even know the actual marital act. They talk about it like it's it's such a taboo topic. It's again, it's we're all humans, yes, but then we all came from animals, and this is quite natural, and everybody needs to know what is supposed to be done. I don't know why they thought that it's indecent, or
Yeah. I think it's
it's
not
something completely
only
wrong.
yeah, yeah. It's not only about, women not being educated about sex. I think men weren't educated about sex. I think in one of the latest
Right.
seasons of Bristol, there was an episode where one of the characters, the male characters, they weren't aware of what sex was. Then they were asked to have kids and, take forward the legacy. They thought like probably kissing was sex and they would automatically be pregnant. Or
Yeah.
probably kind of penetrating into the navel was
Right.
a part of sex. It's a sex.
Yes, yes,
It's such a
exactly.
nice thing. So it isn't only about women in general. It's also about men, even they were in anything in the British rule. But whereas coming back to our culture, we had different ways of, teaching about sex, about sexuality, about the pleasure. I mean, it's not only in the form of Kama Sutra or through the ancient texts or the sculptures that those that are carved in the temple, but also through poetry and through different art forms like dance forms as well, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bharatanatyam or through Kuchipudi, or there's different forms of art. So India is known for its rich culture and its rich
Correct.
form of
Yeah.
art. The way it is, you know. treated. It's something divine. It's not something dirty that we are talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
think I've read somewhere that even the uterus of a woman is associated with God. It's called some Chandan Mahal, or I might be wrong, but it was something like that.
Wow.
So there's beauty to it. So everything, whatever it is considered to be as beauty rather than something vulgar or something dirty. Now, let's say we talk about clitoris, or let's say the vulva. And, well, people will be like, what are you guys even talking about? That's not like you should be talking about. But then,
Actually, for many years, I didn't know the difference between the different parts of a human, I mean, a female, uh, this reproductive system or
yes,
whatever's inside and outside. All of this, actually, honestly, I learned about this from sex education show. I really am thankful for all the things. Yes, it was a very funny show. It had a lot more than what we actually need, but you know, uh, it was still a great way to understand that our knowledge is actually limited right now.
yes, very limited. I think us, let's say if we aren't introduced to certain shows, we wouldn't be aware of, okay, what all is there considering how the situation in India
Yeah,
right now. Yeah. So
yeah,
I think, yeah, as you said, I think it was due to the Victorian era in Britain. So they had like such strict moral codes, and as you said, everything was considered vulgar in in our India, and they label it as vulgar, and that's something disgusting that to
yeah.
talk about. And I think so. They suppressed the attitude towards sex and sexuality, and they were like, no, we have to be modest, and you shouldn't be like this. I think even women weren't allowed to dress in a certain way. I think before we just used to wear a sari or probably a bra sort of thing, a blouse,
Yeah,
and then just a coat sort of structure. Uh,
right.
but I think now after they came, now we see where something like that. It's called modernized, or we being influenced by the West and all. But anyway, that's a whole
It was
other
actually us. It was actually us. We have been there a long
right,
time
you've been
ago.
there, you've been there. So I think it's all Western norms, and we're bringing the West into the picture. But I think that's where we were as Indians, and that's how women used to dress, and that's how women used to, men used to admire women's beauty. So it's a
There was a
beautiful,
reason for all of
yeah,
that, right?
right,
A
and
woman's
even
midriff was always exposed, and it
exposed.
had reasons.
Yes, it was for
It was
good
not about just
reproductive health.
beauty, but again, there were medical reasons why a woman's midriff, the waist region was exposed to the sun because it's somehow good for the uterus and
Yes, the reproductive
for
health
the
and data for the
yeah,
baby
yeah,
also.
reproductive health. Right,
Yes,
yeah. So everything had a reason. We used to wear looser clothes. It was not about vulgarity. It was about comfort. Right
yes,
now,
it's all about
we
comfort.
are, yeah, we are now, I think now for the past
Definitely.
4 or 5 years, we have like gone back to crop tops and
Yes.
stuff. Like, I think we'll get back to that kind of clothing again.
In another
Always
episode.
history repeats.
Yes. So yeah, everything has a reason. And coming to, yeah, as you mentioned about gender roles, and women weren't allowed to express their sexual. Being a woman, you shouldn't be like this. You should be modest. I mean, I believe there were even classes for how women should dress up, how women should talk, how on what should they, how should they react, how should they laugh, and all. Everything. A couple of
Right.
series I watched,
Yeah.
it was like separate teaching classes for them.
I think there are still these etiquette classes
Yeah, that is still
that's
going
still
on.
part of our culture, right?
It,
It's crazy.
yeah, it is quite.
I mean, it is good to have etiquette. It's good to have some kind of table manners and all of that. When it comes to the way you have to dress, yeah, you have to dress to dressing to impress is a great skill dressing to, but
Attitude.
yeah, but restricting it, it's not a good idea. Putting a particular boundary around people is not a good idea.
Right, right. It is. So, yeah, coming back to this. I think, yeah, the Britishers, they did bring in a lot of laws as well. I don't know if you're aware
Mm.
of those.
I think, yeah,
Right.
some things that we talked about, right? It's all of that came from this industrialization. So they started coming up with these random obscenity
Laws of
laws.
scene
They had
publication.
something like yeah, and even about like abolishing prostitution and other stuff. It had good and bad. Okay, so when they came, I cannot completely dismiss British as the villains. Okay, they have really brought some great advancement to our culture also. In terms of the standard of living, they actually brought us education, they brought us railways and all of that. And I also appreciate this abolishment of prostitution. It in the name of tradition, in the name of culture, there was a lot of uh, bad things happening. You know, this the Tawaif culture. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so in the name of God, a lot of women became prey, and they didn't even know. So all of this was when British actually came, they removed this whole culture as such. So yeah, good or bad. Some are really for the benefits. Not a good idea again.
Yeah, have entirely changed the history of Indians,
Yeah.
the way we used to approach and all. I think, yeah, going back to that time, whether it's sex education and probably hygiene standards and all that, I think it's something that we need to compare so that we'll have a more better idea about how it was before
Yeah.
British rule, and then how it was after, after British has invaded our India. I think that's something that we need to talk about, like as I said, industrialization and all. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a positive side to it. Uh, but I think it reduced the crimes, and even it did avoid the diseases like STDs and STIs and all
Right.
through some rules, like
Yeah.
as you said, the abolition of prostitution and all. So it's something that is good in a certain way, as you mentioned. So
Hmm.
and I think it's good to talk about the hygiene practices in India. I think that's
Well,
we should talk about, and then probably talk about
yeah.
the
Coming
practices.
to that, okay. So, uh, I was really shocked when I started reading about this. So, we always thought that the Western culture brought in sanitary napkins and other sanitation methods, right? Maybe it is. Maybe they got the pads and stuff. But Indians have been hygienic way earlier compared to them. And I learned only this when I started looking at this Victorian era hygiene principles. When they had to not even about menstruation of periods, right? Even general hygiene for any man or woman. So if they had to defecate in India, you go to a secluded spot, or there will be specific spaces where you can go and do your job, clean yourself, and come back. But in the British times, at least in the upper society, there was not much access to water. And given the kind of clothes that they wear, most of the women having those enormously large gowns, they did not wear undergarments. They had to use chamber pots. It's just they don't chamber pots are not located somewhere in a separate room. It's usually just in the corner of this whole ballroom. So it did not promote any privacy. there was no way to clean themselves after doing their job. So, and after listening to all of this, it did not make any sense. Like, we were much more hygienic than they were.
Yes, yes, we were.
And how, yeah, it, and coming to menstruation, before sanitary napkins came, women used to use cloth pads or rags
In India,
as part
yes.
of, in India, yes. I've actually read that in the British side, they used to let it flow and stain the clothes. They were okay with that. So yeah, we were quite ahead when it came to our sexual health and hygiene in
Hygiene.
general.
And yes, yes, you're right. You're absolutely. And then we used to,
And but
yes,
we think that Indian toilets are backward, and
but
but
yes,
in reality, actually, our Indian commodes are when you are actually using Indian commodes, there is a health benefit compared to Western seat.
yes, yes, yes.
We do
The
not
position
understand
angle.
the, yeah, you're basically squatting, so your muscles are much more relaxed.
Right.
And all of so we are actually forward. Our scientists or our ancestors had a reason for creating
Everything.
everything,
Yes, you're right.
but
And
it
even,
has been lost in time.
yes, it has been, has been. Yes. Yeah, and as you said, we used to
Or maybe
use,
we are just getting too influenced by the Western culture that we just ignore everything that's in India and
right.
we do whatever they say.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you're aware of this, but in our in the South Indian part, where when the women starts a period for the first time, or yeah, when she starts a period, there's is this thing where we take head bath on the first day, then on the third day, then
Yeah,
on the fifth day. That
yeah,
is to ourselves. That's to make sure we are well washed and we are not attracting any bacteria and all of that. So
yeah, right.
just hygienic.
I frustrated. They used to do all. Then it was not just about head bath, right? They used to
Not
have
let us anything
haldi into the water, and you have to use haldi. So it was actually an anti bacterial
bacteria.
property. Now I think we have a lot of hand washes and other stuff to help deal with it. But back then, all of these older practices like using haldi or neem leaf, so that was the only way to have like a sanitation or antibacterial. I don't think the other countries would have even had all of this,
All of
like
these.
access to all of this, right?
Yes, yes, yes. You're right. And so that's something that's very important and it's necessary for us as women because we are bleeding and so
Yeah,
it is an easy access for bacteria and germs to get in and us getting
yeah,
exposed to various types of diseases and our reproductive health used to go down. So I think yeah, having these
mm-hmm.
certain practices that is there. So I think their way of educating was to associate it with God. They used to say you need to take head bath on the fifth day as well. If you have to, go to a temple, or during
Right.
these days, you're not supposed to touch anything, and just sit in the corner and then take rest. And so that is something that now we consider as, why are we being restricted? We can do anything. We can just go, do everything. But scientifically, we women, we need to rest during that particular period of time. I think
Correct,
so. That is
correct.
how we
Yeah.
have associated it with.
I mean, we should
Now,
have been taught all of that, that women needed
yes,
rest in those 3 or 5
right,
days. Yeah, bathing multiple times was another important thing. And why they were restricted to temples, it's not because God does not want us to enter. No, God does
exactly.
not discriminate a menstruating or a non-menstruating woman. No. So usually, in older times, temples were situated away from the city, or they were far,
So
or they
most
were
of
on a hill or a mountain. So most of that required women to walk. a long
Walk.
distance. And so to avoid all of that, they made these rules that okay, don't go, women are not supposed to go out on these 4 or 5 days, and they can
And
just
also,
stay
there's
inside.
one more reason to it. So apparently, when we bleed, we give out a smell that attracts animals. So
Oh,
at
yes,
times we
yes,
weren't allowed to go out because it might, bring.
attract animals. Yeah,
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 we be like a prey for the animals. So I think
correct.
that is one more reason why we weren't allowed to go out and all. So now these whisper
Yeah.
ads and all, they used to say, oh, why restrict yourself? You can just go out and, do everything and all. But there was a reason why.
Maybe the modern products are allowing us to go out
Yes,
like
yes,
it's another normal
yeah,
day, right? It's
yeah,
getting more and more modern. It's not restricted to sanitary pads now. You have
menstrual cup.
this menstrual cups, tampons, there are discs, and just so much
Many
more.
more.
It's making life convenient,
Yes, it is.
actually. So
Right. So,
I don't think those rules still apply. Women still need their rest. It's going to be an optional thing. You don't have to restrict a woman. So every woman has a different experience when it comes to menstruation, right? Some women have pain. For some women it's like any other day. For some, they are down mentally. Some women have symptoms physically.
right.
So you cannot generalize how it is for women.
Yeah, and in our olden days, we used to use cloths and we used to wash it regularly in
Yeah,
like a couple of hours or something. But coming to the British, in Britain, if I'm not wrong, they used to use rags and they were also wearing clean properly, which ended up with hygiene.
I
And
don't even
now,
think they bath regularly in
yeah, they
general.
don't. They don't. I think we were
They
discussing
do not
about.
have access to yeah, they do not have access to water like we did. So in India, we have to be very fortunate and I mean,
Thankful.
very grateful that no, we have to be very grateful that we are born in a land which is so rich. We have so many rivers. We have so much beautiful access to water sources. Right? Most of the civilizations happened around these riverbeds. Like that's how
Yes,
civilizations developed, and at all times we had access to water and also our temperatures. So it allowed us to use all of those water sources without any restriction because we did not have extremely cold weathers or extremely hot weathers. No, we had a very beautiful range of temperatures that allowed us to actually use all of that. And women and men had separate public baths back then also. So
yes,
they can just go and have uh, a bath without having any restriction daytime. Nah, they just can't do it. But I don't think it is that accessible for the Western people.
right, right. And I think, yeah, as we spoke in India, we celebrate menstruation, and then usually people know when a woman is menstruating because of our habits where we are not supposed to touch and all. So I think,
Yeah,
it's unspoken, like, a woman is not doing it. Like, oh, yeah, she's menstruating, so she needs to do
right.
this. So it's like known. But when it comes to the West, it was a highly stigmatized topic. So nobody basically know, like, okay, yeah, menstruating, but they just use. I mean, as you said, they just used to let it free, and so there were no good hygiene practices that were followed, and many women used to get sick. And as I said, there was no regular uh, bathing that was going on
Yeah,
in Britain until like much later now. Although they are obviously, but then yeah. So the lack
yeah.
of
And
awareness
this
and
can also be reasons for many diseases, right? You will never know what cause. I
what
mean, back then, the medical industry would have not been that uh, developed. So now we are able to identify what's the reason, what's the source. Back then, if there was a man or a woman having multiple sexual partners, and there are STIs, how would you even know?
exactly. You won't even know about it until unless you dive into something
Uh-huh.
where something is like on, you can see it on your hands or probably on your legs.
I
And just,
have no clue. Yeah. Or how did they deal with contraception? These are some
yes,
questions that we'll never be able to answer. No.
yeah,
Yeah, it's easier now. I think contraception is some like very basic thing. How did how did they even manage it back then? It's a very puzzling thing. I think that's why there are a lot of underage pregnancies back then.
back then. And I think even now it's still continuing.
Hmm.
Mostly.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
Right. And then yeah, I think yeah, those certain aspects we can understand how the traditional practice in India and how due to the British invasion, their imposition of the Victorian values during the colonial period actually disrupted our traditional and very effective and good practices in India, and it led to a lasting legacy of stigma and taboo surrounding feminine energy. So I think understanding this historical context can help us
Yeah.
address the challenges and promote better health practice, hygiene health practices towards the feminine hygiene. Industry.
Sometimes, looking into the past helps us get better in the future, right?
Yes,
So
it does.
there is something that we can definitely learn from our ancestors and pave the way forward. So we don't have to. I mean, you don't really have to do all the stuff in the scriptures. You don't have to public. I
Follow.
mean, you don't have to be that loud if that is
Right.
making you uncomfortable. But there are certain things that has to be discussed openly, and that is our way forward. Sex education needs to be regularized, and I really want to see it in a good form, being taught to students, being taught to children, whatever is relevant to that particular age, and I'm more concerned because of the easy availability of wrong information in everybody's hands, right? Everybody has a phone, everybody has an internet connection, and it's not very difficult for people
Kids
to
and
get. Yeah, I mean, I was a curious kid. Yeah, we all could have gotten influenced by the wrong things at any time. You'll never know who preys on you, who is the predator. It is always someone you'll never expect. So
right.
it's always better to be on the safer side than sorry. So
Exactly.
I still believe that it's a very urgent thing that be it
That needs to be
schooling,
addressed.
be it family, everybody needs to start addressing this issue.
Yes. I think I think us we are actually progressing in regarding this field of sex education. The government
Mm-hmm.
did bring in family planning initiatives where they were
Mm-hmm.
educating people regarding family planning and how when and obviously to control the population and all rather than
Yeah.
entirely focusing on sex education but
Yeah.
then yeah, so that's a great initiative. And these days even influencers and parents are the younger parents these days are teaching the kids from a early age about a good touch and bad
Mm-hmm.
touch, which is very important. And I think I'm not generalizing it only for women because even men are being harassed or abused.
Harassed. Yeah. Yeah.
So both the kids should learn about it. They should be aware of such things. They should be educated about sex from a very young age, and they we need to
Yeah.
bring
They
in that
should
sexual
know their
element.
boundaries, right?
Yes, they should.
Creating your boundaries, it's going to be the same for any gender, and how you treat the other person. It's important whether you're a male or a female. How you treat yourself, how you let others treat you, that's something that is a core part of sex education.
Yes, yes, you're right.
And I think
Yeah,
further there are so many things that we are still yet to learn. I am still exploring. So we know that we're born either as a male or a female. That's our biological body, like we discussed earlier. Beyond that, there is sexuality, and our generation is on the verge of exploring different types of sexuality. And apparently there are so many genders, like more than 60, 70 genders at this point. I really I'm not in a place to comment on that. I think so that is also something that we all need to be aware of, and understand and be more inclusive, and understand how to deal with every kind of person out there. It's not, again, it's not about male and female, it's about every other person in the
Yes,
planet, how you're going to
everything.
deal with them. Yeah,
Yes, I think that's quite important.
it's very, very interesting.
It's
This
very
transgender thing and all, we think that it's very modern. No, it's part of our Indian culture.
yes, it is. It was. It was. I think that's surprising. I don't think so many people are aware of it, but it was a part of our Indian culture.
It is like, Shiva Parvati as Ardhanarishwara, like that is literally the core, like everybody knows it. It was not a taboo topic at all.
Yeah,
So, and there was also a reason why it was all part of our culture, right? The masculine energy, feminine
the
energy.
feminine energy.
People did not understand if you're telling it in normal terms. So they made up these whole stories and came up
Right.
with this, yeah. And it was part of our culture. But right now, when we think about it, like we are quite progressive. We were quite progressive.
Way back then compared to now, to be very honest.
Yes, yes.
Right. And I think we are, mostly focused towards West, and we are in this dilemma that it's all the West that's bringing in everything, and we are being educated because of the West about such important topics. But it's all from India. It's there in our culture. It's there back then. And so we should strive, we should take this conscious effort of studying more about our culture and understanding why certain things were there in a certain way. I think if we read our, scriptures and all of them, I think we'll be aware of a lot of things, and we would be surprised how relevant it is to now. I think our ancestors
Correct.
were, way
We are in
forward
a
thinking.
very, yeah, we are in a very confused generation. Nobody wants to commit, nobody wants to take responsibility, nobody knows how to handle a woman or how to handle a man, how to get satisfied in a sexual relationship. Some people want only sex, some people want only a platonic relationship. So I think all of this was, it was part of our culture as well. Do humans as a species need monogamous relationships, or is polygamy a part of it?
Right.
It was all explored even back then. We are not some new species, alien species. All our ancestors have
Right.
already thought about this, have lived
Right.
through this. We just forgot our roots for two
What
centuries.
right?
Just
Yes.
go dig it back and get to understand, and you'll find out why some of the practices that we have, like marriages or any other practices that have been there, why it still exists. And uh, some of them may be a good idea, some of them may be a bad idea, some of them need to evolve according to the current times.
Yeah.
But if we try to understand the real reason why they existed in the first place, it will get us forward.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, you pointed out that such great point that we aren't exploring something new and all. It's all written, it's all there, and it's something that it's just that we weren't aware of any of that, and now that we
Yeah,
are getting to know, we think, no, this is something new. We
it,
need
it's
to
like
add.
it's like the difference between discovery and invention. We are not inventing anything, we're just
We are just
rediscovering what
discovering it.
already
We
exists.
discover.
Yeah.
Yes. I think as you mentioned about how women should be treated, how men should be treated, it was all written. Just that we aren't aware of it. And even in Kama Sutra, there are different ways, chapters and chapters on how women should be treated in order, for her to achieve that high state of pleasure, or for her to reach into that a different level of
Yeah,
energy. And for men, there's a different way of pleasuring. So, and
correct.
for
Yeah,
them to elevate into high state of energy. So that's something is there and we are avoiding. So I think even pharmaceutical to bring in that intimate energy or that intimacy, it starts with a normal conversation. That's how we
right.
start. That's how you treat
Yeah,
each other.
it's
You should
different for
respect.
each gender, right?
It is
It's
different for each
different.
gender. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and also we may not have to agree everything is that there in the book. Some of
right.
them might be very archaic. Some of them you might not agree with it today. It could be patriarchal. So you can take the good things out of it, what is relevant, and incorporate it as part of the new life that we have.
That's important. Like, going ahead. And yeah, I think there's a conscious efforts that's being made by Indians also to bring back our culture, to bring back the Kama Sutra. And Kama Sutra is now big topic right now. Everybody's open. I think Seema Anand, she's one person. She's like actively
My
taking
God, I love her.
forward. Yeah, I love her. I love her. I'm a great fan. I've heard many podcasts and I've read a couple of articles, and also I think she's in the forefront. She's taking this forward. She's bringing in.
Yeah,
I think yeah, there are many other people that are putting in constant effort
yeah,
to bring it to let the society know about the importance of sex education, and that sex
yeah,
education is
yeah.
not
And
only
female
about sex.
pleasure, I think when they're talking about female pleasure, like the one you mentioned, Seema Anand, she talks about the smallest things, like wearing a little hair slide or letting the hair down, wearing your earrings. So everything, she talks about how each and every detail is part of sex, and it's so it's very it's something
Amazing.
very
It's
new that
surprising.
we have never
Yeah.
been taught about it. Like, and also something I have to appreciate that we live in a time where uh, we're able to talk about this right now. We're able to understand what are the different techniques a woman can have self like pleasure, and she doesn't need another person to do it. We are educated. We have so many tools actually to experience that pleasure for us. And I'm not sure if when Kama Sutra was written, they would have even thought that we'd be
Uh,
having all of these tools
right.
or yeah, all of that with us. But it is, I think it you can take the core message from our old scriptures and use it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that we all need to do. We all need to go back, bring in those books that are piled up somewhere.
Yeah,
Start
ultimately it
reading.
comes to self love, no?
Right, right. So that's very important. And I think constantly putting in effort, learning about things. I think it's not only about just sex and just pleasure. It's more to it.
Yeah,
It's about how you treat another person, you treat the opposite person, uh, your partner, and then with who or how, or what brings that divine energy and
hmm,
all of it. Right? Sex is like a normal thing. But to sex, there's a lot more that we need to understand. It's
yeah,
about the
yeah,
pleasure, the connection. We are forming a bond. We're forming a connection. I
yeah,
think yeah, there's somewhere I read your if your sex life was successful, if it's good, then your professional life is also going to be successful. Also going to be good. It's like interlinked. I think apparently that's how it used to be in the olden days. So
wow,
yeah,
very
quite
interesting.
It's not at all a taboo, guys. It's not something dirty or not something vulgar to talk about sex education,
Yeah,
about sex. It's more to it. It's beautiful. There's a lot of beauty associated with it. Like we are God's creation, so each part of us is beautiful, and we shouldn't associate something to dirty or something vulgar. It's just a part of us. It's a nature of us. That's how we humans have been designed to. And
yeah,
it's important to talk about it. Yeah, what do you?
yeah. It's like we said, it's part of us, and there's no shame in talking about it. There's no shame in expressing your desires. There will be people who are going to shame you. Don't
No matter
listen to
what.
them, no matter what.
Yeah.
See, there are people who always will victim blame you, even when you are the like you. Even if you get hurt, it's like, why did you wear that particular dress and go there? So there are people who always are
Tell
gonna
me.
point a finger at you. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. Just be honest, be truthful to you, and um, you're gonna go places. Simple.
Right. I think sex education also teaches about that intimate connection with a person. It's not just something
Hmm.
you do to just satisfy yourself, not just for satisfaction.
I hope
More to it.
everybody just, this subject becomes a mandatory subject in schooling that everybody has to
Right.
pass, or else they're not eligible to come out in society. If
Right.
that is, if that
That's
becomes,
what.
mandatory, we can avoid a lot of problems because
Yes.
nobody knows how to, um, stay, not about staying in a relationship, but it's about giving and taking, right? And
Right.
that kind of giving attention, expressing yourself, all of that will happen once you accept yourself and love yourself.
Yes.
And loving yourself is not just a mental, emotional thing, it's also a physical thing. And I know a lot of people who struggle physically, they're
To
not
actually,
confident about their bodies, right? I've seen like two extremes. So there is this extremely attractive people who are highly conscious about their bodies, who try to groom themselves and all of that. Those people, again, they might feel hollow on the inside. I've actually met people like that. They'll be like, I'm beautiful and I know that, and I get a lot of compliments and I get a lot of attention, but it is usually because of my outer beauty, and nobody gets through to understand me on the inside. So that's one side. And there's on the other extreme, there are people who have still not accepted their bodies, their what the God has gifted them, and they have always felt insecure.
yes.
Accepting yourself starts from within, and only then, it's not only your physical body, it's your mental body, your spiritual body, your emotional body. You have to accept it on the whole. And more than teaching science or social or geography at school, we are also supposed to be taught this basic uh, knowledge. This is kind of
Necessary.
basic. As a human being, we're not we're all supposed to know all of this, but uh, I think people lack the depth to understand or teach such topics.
Right.
But
I
I
think
hope in the future this becomes a norm. Yeah, wisdom needs to be
something
taught.
demand.
Maybe, yeah, in gurukuls and all, right? When back in the days, it was
Mhm.
not about subjects. It was about discipline. It was about
Yes.
wisdom.
Yes.
It was about how you conduct yourself. So that should be part of our education.
Right. Right. I think
I hope we
bringing.
go there.
Yes. Yes. I seriously hope that we are heading towards it and we bring in good change and bring in a positive impact. I think bringing in sex education would also reduce the number of rapes and drug
Yeah.
use that is happening.
It's getting worse.
in the world. Yeah, and I think I think once you understand about sex and about that sex is not just a momentary satisfaction or a momentary pleasure. I think
Mm,
it's something more to it. Something more to it that people need to understand, and that it's not something that you do it with just another person. It's
yeah,
something more to it. It's a higher level of energy. It's like you're levitating. You get into this another,
levitating.
yeah. When you get into this another, state, something
Yeah,
divine.
yeah, yeah.
It's considered divine. So I think once we understand this, once people are educated about this from the childhood, I think then they would understand that it's not something that is to be done with any person.
Any.
You
Yeah, your body remembers. Your
Yes,
body
what
remembers uh, the number of people you have been with. So that is one thing. And I've also heard something that your purpose as a human being on this planet or in this life is not fulfilled entirely if you do not have sex also. So
right.
it is not something shameful. Like, there's this four phases of a human: brahmacharya, vanaprastha, all of
Yes,
that.
yes,
I can't remember the thing. Being as a family man is also part of
our
how a
life.
man transitions uh, to their final stages. Being a family man, having children, having sex, it's all part of it. And only then can you transcend to a higher consciousness.
Right. I
So
think
you
if
have
you
to understand everything. You have to be aware. You have to be conscious of all that energy that's passing through you and uh, celebrate it instead of feeling shameful or
right,
like you have sinned. You did not
yes,
sin.
not
Be a sin if you are doing it to hurt somebody or if you're doing it with uh, in the wrong intentions.
I think we know. I think people might understand what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Don't need to name it and explain. I think yes, and I think people should also understand that since it's a part of life, it's something that we need to
Hmm.
do. You shouldn't be like, yeah, I'll just marry any person or I'll just have any person or I'll just have kids. It's just not about that, guys. Okay, yes, as an individual, you have to go through that entire life process, the life cycle, and all. But I think you need to understand what satisfies you. What are your desires?
Mm.
You need to, in order to attain that highest level of satisfaction, you need to prioritize. You need to do what your heart says.
But do you think we even have the chance to explore ourselves in the given
In the given
societal structure?
yes, might not. I think that is where we all need to collectively, participate in, raising
Collectively
awareness.
participate.
Right. It's not something that if you and I we sit and do a podcast and just few people listen and they'll be like, yeah, right, right, right. It's not just about knowledge. If you just hear and you just think like, yeah, I'm aware of. If not, it's just going to stay in our head and be like, yeah, I've gained enough knowledge. I'm good. I'm aware of it. I am knowledgeful. I'm resourceful. That isn't going anywhere. So it's the reason why we need to actually bring in the state. I think that's how I really appreciate you and especially Seema, the way she's bringing forward everything. She's making a constant effort, educating people, our generation, and to the influencers who are educating their kids and counselors and every one of them. I'm really grateful to all of them, all the
Mhm.
people who effectively and efficiently participate in bringing the change, awareness. I think because
Yeah.
of certain people, we are here. We are here. We can openly talk about topics that we thought were once a taboo during our childhood. Right. That's it for today, guys. I hope you guys had a great time. And definitely, you might have a few things here and there which you don't agree with us. So please do let us know about it. And thank you so much, Nivedita, for joining today to discuss about
Thank you so
this
much.
one
It was Yeah. So it's a very wonderful topic, a very eye-opening topic, I think, for most of us. We're going to learn something really different. Maybe we have missed out on a lot of facts and points. So after you listen to this episode, I hope that all of you just go and learn a thing or two about our history and our culture and how it has influenced us and our relationships also. So just go and tell us what you think, what are your opinions about what we spoke about today, and we'll see you in the next week
Except,
on a new
yes,
episode.
right. And please do share your thoughts. And if you have something interesting or something new related to this topic, please do comment on our Instagram page and our Spotify page or Amazon page, whatever you're listening to. Please do let us know your thoughts and your views on certain things. So that'll be really helpful for us. Also, going ahead, probably we can make a sequence to this episode. And so definitely
Yeah,
we did miss on
I
a
would
lot of
love it.
points. Yeah, we did miss a lot of
Yes.
points. We don't have a lot of time to cover everything in one episode. So we'll come back with few more interesting topics or conversations related to this and many more other interesting topics. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. I hope you guys have a great day ahead. Please do like, share, subscribe, and comment and let us know how it is. Thank you.
Have a
Bye bye,
great week,
guys.
guys. Bye bye.
Bye.